Hi, everyone. I'm Alolita Sharma, and we are going to be very, very happy to be here at OSCON today with my colleagues Mihir and
What's his face?
and what's his face, Carl. He's our product manager. So again, super happy to be here and talking about Open Distro for Elasticsearch. I am a principal technologist working on open source at AWS, and again, been involved in open source personally for a long period of time. Almost 2 decades now. I worked on all kinds of cool projects, including Wikipedia and lots of other libraries and open source still excites me a lot. And I'm super happy to be actually talking about Open Distro for Elasticsearch today because it really represents, really big initiative in terms of rolling out a distribution for a core search stack, which is used by a lot of customers, a lot of users around the world. And it is built on some of the fundamentals of search, which are open source, like Apache Lucene, right? So how many of you use Apache Lucene directly? Some of you do. How many of you use Elasticsearch? Some of you, more of you, I hope. And how many of you are either evaluating or looking at log analytics in your organizations? Most of us are. So again, this should be a good discussion. And also, as we highlight on some of the key technical features, Carl will also be available to be able to answer any other questions that you have. So, if you can kindly hold that till the end of the session, that'd be pretty awesome. So just a very quick, touch upon what Elasticsearch is. As you know, it's a distributed search and analytics engine. It's built on Apache Lucene, so most of the core work of search is done by Lucene itself. And it's in the Elasticsearch world, there is the ELK stack, which basically is composed of Elasticsearch, which is the core search engine, Logstash, which is the log analytics, ingestion, and Kibana, which is the visualization tool that is used on top of Elasticsearch, right? The great advantage of the ELK stack has been it's open source, of course. And then there is easy ingestion and visualization that is also available out of the box with the ELK stack. And of course, for us Java developers and people who are using Java, this is built in Java. So Elasticsearch, actually, believe it or not, is both, not only supports search, it's also rated in the database, stack. And as you can see here, it's in the top 10, database log analytics stacks, and is very popular. So Kibana is the visualization tool that sits on it. How many of you have used Kibana? Many of you have, right? And again, it is kind of the UI, if you will, for Elasticsearch. You build dashboards with it all the time. You're doing different kinds of custom dashboards as well as, dashboards that come in for the different plugins. And we'll touch upon that also for the alerting feature that we're going to be covering. So what's the data that we are talking about, right? What type of data? It's all types of data because, as we go into the world where there's tremendous amount of machine learning and tremendous amount of machine-generated data that's coming in, the data that you get from logs all over the place, whether that's servers, whether that's, databases, IT ops, any kind of, monitoring that you're doing, web logs, even edge devices, IoT devices, mobile devices, sensors, gaming, cloud-based networks, huge amount of logs and data that's being generated, right? And most organizations have to process that, have to be able to not only ingest that data, but also do analytics on that and also visualize it, right? So Elasticsearch plays a major role in most organizations that are, analyzing where it fits in very well. So again, come Open Distro for Elasticsearch. Open Distro for Elasticsearch was launched as an open source distribution by AWS in March. It's very brand new and a baby project, if you will. It is 100% Apache 2 licensed, and it is, pulling in upstream Elasticsearch and upstream Kibana open source versions with plugins that AWS has built, such as enterprise-grade security, alerting, SQL, and performance monitoring, which comes out of the box with the distribution today. And then there are more features that are rolling out with the distribution as different teams and projects are being worked upon. So we are kind of going to highlight upon alerting today. How many of you have used Open Distro for Elasticsearch or downloaded it yet? Any of you? Okay, so this is a good introduction because I don't know if you were here for Carl's talk yesterday, but he actually touched upon some of the core features and why we did Open Distro for Elasticsearch. So if you have any questions on the whys, I'll defer to Carl later in the talk. But what we wanted to do with this talk is to highlight on alerting. And each one of these components is open source. So you can actually go check out the source. We build all the features in the open. Everything is on GitHub. And you can go and track the PRs, file issues, do different things with, and track the features that we are building for each of these. So alerting is a core feature which allows you to monitor your data and also set up automatic alerts on different types of data and on any changes that you are making and analyzing your data, right? So that's something that, again, in your organization, if you have pager notifications or if you want to get thresholds on set thresholds, this is the feature to look at. So alerting, is a module, a plugin that you can get out of the box with Open Distro. And it enables you to create monitors, which means that it enables you to query your data and receive alerts on it. It lets you set up triggers and define thresholds that you can actually set for each type of data and get alerts on. It allows you to get notifications, such as built-in webhooks, with built-in webhooks for Slack, for example. How many of you use Slack as a notification channel? We all do. And also custom webhooks for other types of third-party tools, right? Where you are, for example, some of you may be using HipChat. Some of you may be using PagerDuty, right? Just to get notifications for servers or other types of logs that you're tracking, right? And also, in the Kibana interface that we have with alerting, being able to view those alerts and also look at those alerts and the notifications and the life of when the alert occurred, when did it end, in an alerting history, right? So there is a visualization that comes out of the box, and you can then customize it to be able to adapt it for your own needs. So diving in a little deeper, just wanted to talk a little bit about the life cycle of an alert. What's an alert, right? It's basically a trigger that is set and is activated because we are defining the conditions for when that trigger should be fired off. It sends a notification if an alert occurs on a particular type of data that you've set it for, and it's based on the throttles that you're defining, right? And all of these are configurable in configuration files, and Mihir is going to actually walk through that in a live demo. And if you acknowledge an alert, of course, it goes away, right? It's not going to go and come and notify you every time after that. The alerting condition is also monitored at regular intervals, so it'll continue to come and remind you and keep reminding you with notifications until you say, okay, I've acknowledged it, or the error condition has disappeared. Again, and so you can see it's very simple. in concept, but you can actually put in thousands of monitors, if you need to, for different types of data and different kinds of notifications that you're interested in, right? And this is all on Elasticsearch data. So there are two types of monitors that come out of the box with OpenDistro today. One is visual monitors, so you can visualize them through Kibana. And then there are query-based monitors that you can use. And right now, there is HTTP-based monitors that are in progress. It's in development. And so it'll come out with an upcoming release of OpenDistro. So Mihir is going to walk through, again, the visual monitors, setting up visual monitors, setting up query-based monitors, and please feel free to ask him questions when he kind of deep dives into that. The different types of data that, again, we can set monitors for is any kind of data, right? Anything that goes through the Elasticsearch, anything that you're searching through Elasticsearch, and that can be indexed. It could be HTTP status codes. It could be auth features like login, authentication failures, for example. It could be traffic thresholds that you're setting that you want to get alerted on. It could be web logs that you're tracking specific types of entries on. So there's a lot of flexibility in the kind of data that you are looking at. So with that kind of an overview, I'll switch over to Mihir, who will deep dive into actually showing you how to set up an alert and then come back around for more.
Yeah, thanks, Alolita. My name is Mihir. I work as engineer in search team at AWS. So as she described what about alerting is, I'll just switch over to demo. So I have a simple Docker running to Elasticsearch cluster with Kibana on my local node, and I just use like simple documentation website. So you can just go and check it on the documentation website where we have all the guide available to how easy to get start up and running. So how many of you use Elasticsearch for your log analytics solutions, right? I've seen most of the people who have their hands were using for log analytics purpose. So now we have Elasticsearch, which ingests a lot of logs. We want to get notified on that data wherever we have our own thresholds, right? So so this is OpenDistro Kibana with same open source Kibana with on all the OpenDistro features, right? So when you click on alerting, you see 3 different tabs. Each tab, so the first tab by default tab is the dashboard tab, which tells you all your alerts. When I say alerts, is like all kind of alerts, like the current alerts, ongoing alerts, or the historic alerts. You can go and check out what is your history about the alerts over here. Monitors is where you manage your monitors. You can create hundreds and thousands of monitors based on your scale of Elasticsearch, OpenDistro Elasticsearch. And the destination is where you define your channels where you're going to get notified. So by default, I have created a sample Slack destinations. You can create any PagerDuty, HipChat, Jira, anything which is like integrated within your own infrastructure. So I'll go back and I have some web logs data I have already indexed in my clusters. So let's see. So this is where, so this is create monitor. So monitor is something that basically what data you want to watch so that you can get alerts on that. And this is what you provide at this particular point of time, right? So let's say we create sample monitor here. So schedule. So schedule is basically how frequently you want to run this monitor. Sure. So, schedule is basically how frequently you want to run this monitor. Is basically the fastest it can run is every 1 minute, but you can schedule different every 1 hour, days, hour, or any specific. You want to run daily, weekly, monthly, or if anything doesn't work, you can just choose custom expression, which can still run. The fastest is like 1 minute. Disable is basically you want to just setting up this data and then you just want to do some kind of dry runs. So here is the defined monitors. As Alolita mentioned earlier, so we have a different type of monitors. So visual is the simplest one where you can visualize your data and you can just create your monitor and then create a trigger out of it. Extraction queries, basically, if you're not able to solve or create the monitor using the visual graph and you're expert on Elasticsearch queries, you can use those queries to create the monitors on which you can trigger the data. And you can always flip it back and forth between these two as per the availability. So this is your visual graph. So the index is basically you provide your index. You can provide multiple index to watch on. Or in log analytics world, we use rollover API. So we roll over every hour or every 1 day or every 10 days, whatever it is. So we can also use the index pattern. So I have something called weblogs and I have pattern. So I say weblogs -star, which basically will take care of all the indices to watch upon. Time field is again basically on which time filter you want to look for, like last 1 hour or last 1 minute or last 10 hours, whatever the data you're looking for. So for now here, I'll just choose the timestamp. So this is the basic preview of your data. This is what it looks like. So overall, how many documents which is being coming ingested based on your current incoming data or the historical data. So this is your actual data that you see as part of the graph. So if you're creating a visual monitor, we try to simplify it for the users so that they can have to provide the minimal input so that they can create the monitor very easily. So when is basically the Elasticsearch aggregation. So you can provide average count, sum, min, max based on the use cases. So for example, if you are looking for latency and you want to just see average latency is not breaching the threshold, or for example, in this example, I'm trying to limit my number of 5xx errors. So I want to just get notified if some of the error count is going above my threshold. I just want to be notified. So I'll just use count for now. So number of documents, which is having response code as 5xx, but you can use any other aggregation, whichever is available from the list. Here is for what period of the time. So every time this monitor executes, how long you want to look for the data. Generally, you would just sync it as per your period. If it runs 10 minutes, you want to look last 10 minutes data, so you're always in the sync. But for now, I'll just use last 1 hour data, so we have enough data points to show over there. Where is, again, the filter on the data? So as I mentioned earlier, we'll be creating a monitor on 5xx. So here, I have a response, so where is my text field for now? So I'll say any error response code starting with 5, which I want to cover 5xx. I'll say, okay, and then your graph changes. So this is, again, your visualization graph based on the queries that you are provided. And Kibana does, the alerting does all the work for you, and you don't have to worry about, or even if you don't know Elasticsearch queries, you can still create the monitors. So it's very simplified for you. And this is the simple part of creating the monitor. So once you create the monitor, it takes you to trigger. So this is what you already defined your data to watch upon, right? So now you want to create triggers, and you create multiple triggers based on your threshold. So for example, if you are going more than 100 errors, you want to get notified different teams, or if it is less than the threshold, you want to get just the support team or something like that, right? So I'll say sample trigger. Again, the severity is, again, based on your norms within the organization. It's like, say, 1, severity 2, severity 3. I'll just keep it as 1, and for now, I'll just become aggressive. Say if anything is more than 1, I just want to get notified. So this is the condition. This is your threshold. So if every time monitor runs, and if it is going above this threshold, you will get notified based on your actions that you have provided. So actions, you provide the name of the action. Again, so destination is where I previously showed the list of destination you already configured, Slack, PagerDuty, anything else. So here I just have my one Slack notification channel available. I'll just use that. This is a subject. You just have to define the subject and the message. So message is the mustache template that we use. So you can also inject data that has been run by monitor itself. So imagine you got like 1 hour data which has like 3 documents, and you want to dive deep and put it as part of your message itself. So you can put it inside that. There is a context variable we inject as every monitor runs. So this mustache templates will be rendered using those contexts. You can check out the documentation, what are the things available, but basically I have simple document ready, where we basically takes what time period it has run, so it's for easy for you to go and dive deep for the logs. So here we just have name, severity, period start and period end. So period start and period end is basically what is the time period that has been running, so it's always going to be 1 minute, and this is the preview. uh, so last thing is in action is the throttling. So imagine you run every 1 minute monitor and you don't want to get uh, like bombarding with message. Anything is going wrong with your system, and yeah, there is so many messages you want to keep going, right? So basically, what you can do is you can throttle it your action. So you say even the monitor runs every 1 minute. I want to get notified once in 3 minutes or 5 minutes, something like that. So you control your limit on your Slack or anything else, so you don't breach them. Your webhooks limits as well. So after we create this monitor, we have to wait for a minute if it is going to, into an alert state. But basically, this is where you visualize your monitor. This gives you the better picture of how your monitor is performing. These are the list of triggers. This is the visualization of your. So anytime everything it goes into an alert, and you'll see the red dots. We'll see that, and the list of alerts whichever is available. So okay, so we have it. So it went into alert. Now we have the Slack notification running 5xx error, and we just created this monitor with all the details. This is the period that was rent for. So you can just take this timestamp and dive deep into the logs. If you go back to Kibana and hit refresh, you'll see the red dot which visualize, okay, there's something wrong on the alert side, and it shows what is the start time, and it's still an active state over here. So it shows it is active as well. Okay. And if you go to the alerting dashboard, here is where you can perform. So you might get paged Slack notifications, somebody comes in, checked in, and say, okay, I know the issue, and you can just acknowledge it. So it will basically set the state of an alert as an acknowledged, but it will still be inactive, but it will not bother you on your notification channel. So it is understood that you are working on your problems or whatsoever the use cases are. So this is how you basically create the Kibana monitors. I'll also want to go over one more use case where the query base. So imagine we just want to switch back to the query base. So we'll just put it over here. So here you can define any Elasticsearch queries, whichever is available. And if you're expert, you can just write your own Elasticsearch and watch on your data. So, but the rest, everything remains same. So here is like, we have the count, took is 45 milliseconds, and then total is 6. So we are still again breaching the threshold, but you can write any Elasticsearch query here if you are not like, your use case is not being satisfied with the visual graph. Apart from that, alerting also exposes all the REST APIs. So there are times you want to integrate within your own infrastructure. So you can go and look at the documentation one more time, and there is a lot of APIs where you can just integrate within your own workflow or however you want to do it. So for example, I have this curl call basically creating another monitor. So I'll just use that, which will create a monitor for me. And if I go back to Kibana and hit refresh, you'll see another monitor which is being created using the curl command. On top of these two different use cases, there is two different ways. There is another way also you can manage your monitors. Imagine you have your own cluster running multiple teams or multiple microservices, just ingesting logs for one typical one only Elasticsearch cluster. So there is a CLI we have built up on. You can install it. It's available on the documentation as well. So CLIs basically let you manage your monitors in YAML file. So let me, yeah. So this is a CLI. We have a bunch of other commands. You can just go and read about documentation about that. But this is basically, you can manage your monitor in YAML files. You can get it code review within the peers, because you always want to watch your thresholds when you are on production world, right? So you can create your monitors, organize your monitors, and then you can get it reviewed within your peers, and then you can publish it to the your Elasticsearch cluster. So for example, I'll just start with syncing existing monitor. Just sure, I just sort of first. Okay. So I sync my destination, and I also sync my, okay. Okay, I see what's wrong. Yeah, so this is there was some issue with the destinations, but yeah, that's fine. I created. Okay, so this is where you get all your monitors, and you can organize it within your own way, because by teams, by product, by services, anything, whichever is comfortable and easy way. This is a YAML file you get, and you can modify anything you want. For example, if we change the interval to 10 minutes, uh, here you'll see the monitor has changed, and you can just do the diff command. It's kind of a git diff, but it's basically, if you see here, so here you see the green little, not sure the color is great, but yeah, it's basically tells you it has changed something, and if you delete something, it will show as a red thing that something has been deleted. You can get it reviewed within your peers, and then you can just push. So push by the default doesn't push to Elasticsearch, because we just wanted to have the way where we don't accidentally update our thresholds. So when you actually do the submit, it's basically run monitor basically ensure it's validated and there's nothing else. And if you go back to the monitor, you will see the threshold has been updated by every 10 minutes. And here you'll see we acknowledge the alerts, we change the color, and we get all the notification. So the CLI will help you to organize like hundreds and thousands of monitor. If you are using large cluster with different teams and different microservices, you can have let every team organize their own monitors as well. With that, I'll switch over back to Alolita. Thanks, everyone.
All right, thanks, Mihir. Good work. So, I mean, Mihir went over the three options of walking through an HTTP based visualization through Kibana, a query based visualization, and then the monitor setup from the CLI, right? So again, those are three parts of the demo. So if you have any questions, again, ping us later. So one of the things I wanted to highlight again is that for OpenDistro for Elasticsearch, which bundles the alerting plugin, you can download it in different formats. Docker is by far the most popular for the distribution so far, because people can just take it and run it out of the box, right? And RPM Debian is also available, and we're actually in the process of rolling out Windows as well as Kubernetes support with the Helm chart. So again, these are all community requests, and if you have a request for any other types of packages, you can actually go to the community repo and just file an issue, right? Just make a request, and there are a lot of members from the community, different companies as well as different users who are actually contributing to the code base. And we'd like to invite you to come and join and participate also, whether that's, as you're using Elasticsearch in your own use cases, to be able to share your knowledge with other community members in the on the discussion forums, as well as learn from others as people are discussing different kinds of configurations or different kinds of use cases of how they're implementing, or some of the issues they're running into with the security setups. So again, please keep this for your own usage, and spread the word within your companies and groups. We have discussion forums fully, which are on several topics around OpenDistro for Elasticsearch and the components in it. There's a security discussion forum. There's a different alerting specifically on discussopendistro.com. And that's also available directly from the project website, which is opendistro.github.io. So you can just, find it right from there. And then, of course, we also have on the GitHub side where the source code sits, which is opendistro-for-elasticsearch. Long name, but easy to remember once you know it, is where all our code sits, right? We have actually tens of repos for the different plugins, and you can go and check that out, follow the PRs that are being made, or watching the repos for as much detail as you like. And also go check out the alerting source code at the tiny URL that's right here, which takes you to the alerting repo itself. Again, lots to be done. We also do have, if you're getting involved in the community, we have tagged several issues as the first issues that you can go and work on. And that's something that you can just pick up and get started with and then go from there. So again, just welcome you to come and participate. If you want to improve the documentation, anytime you can even raise, PRs on the documentation. It's super easy to get involved. So I'd like you to go and try it out. Easy to download. Go check it out and actually run the. You can also pick up if you're building applications, right, which are around Elasticsearch. You can also pick up the artifacts from Maven Central. We do have the security artifacts, for example, available that you could actually pick up and incorporate, into your own plugins also that you might be building with Elasticsearch. So with that, thank you. And I would turn it over to Carl to answer any questions. Again, the reward for answering questions is a cool t-shirt. So definitely feel free to ask questions. And if you want any stickers for your laptops, they're right here. So, yes.
Sure, go ahead.
Carl.
You need to finish your speaker certification so you can do this.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm sorry, I came late, and you may have answered this, but the elephant in the room is like with the discussion and the, in the blogosphere, is about this. Is this a fork of Elastic? And I know recently they changed their licensing because they felt that, again, I don't know what all the issues are, but they felt that, this is kind of a ripoff because now you're taking Elastic and make money off of it.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
can you answer that?
sure.
That's why I came here to kind of see what your side.
Sure. Well, I mean, so this is all 100% Apache 2.0 open source code. So that we use here. The first part of the question was, is this a fork of Elasticsearch? And it's not. This is a distribution on top of Elasticsearch. So it's when you go and download Open Distro, you're actually getting the open source part of Elasticsearch, none of the Elastic licensed code. And then we've augmented it with our own additional open source plugins that build up the distro. We felt this was, so we've been building these features for our own service, and with the changes in how they've been managing the code, they've been moving more and more of their innovation into the commercially licensed code, which is fine. But given how many of our users and even just AWS users that run their own Elasticsearch clusters, we felt that there needed to continue to be innovation in the open source part of the project, and that we really wanted to help sponsor that and get that going. It is our intent to have a full, a broad community. AWS doesn't want to own Open Distro in the long run. We'd like to get everybody involved so that we could have a more healthy ecosystem around Elasticsearch. And we just felt it was the right time for us to do that.
Yeah. Everyone, you have 5 minutes left, so
okay.
maybe one more question.
Oh, okay. Wow, that was brief. Well, he gets a t-shirt at least. I'm going to do 2. Okay.
So, I have a question related to the monitoring and analytics at the cluster level and then the index level.
Yeah.
Does it have any support on the cluster level activities that are being performed in the Elasticsearch cluster? And since the way, let's say there's some kind of concept called watermarking on the
Oh, like health stuff, health information. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a third input type of monitor. So we've seen a couple of users asking for this feature, saying that they want to monitor Elasticsearch cluster itself using cat indices and cluster health. So there is already an open PR for that. So I think within some few weeks, maybe on next release of Open Distro, it should be there. So where you can just provide your HTTP URL and say I want to just monitor the Elasticsearch cat indices or cluster health. You can monitor that as well.
Yeah, I guess Kibana provides the Sharma allocation.
So as long as it is available in GAT API, we don't have a post right now, but we already have a in progress PR for the GET request from the Elasticsearch.
I know. Yeah. I'll take your question.
Mine's going to be really short.
Okay.
I'm going to go pull this down, spin it up in my Kubernetes cluster, get my helm chart set up, and all this, and then a week later, AWS is gonna have a hosted version of this?
Well, no, we run this on our service, right? It's not. There's still some of the features that are still coming, but we fully intend to run this on our service.
Like, so,
Yeah.
because I'm
Yeah.
using
Yeah.
the ES,
Yeah.
hosted ES,
Mhm.
which has the Kibana built into it.
Yeah.
Is this gonna be baked into that?
Yeah. Yeah. Alerting is there. Alerting is already running on the service. Anything in SQL is too. Alerting was available from. Alerting was 2, and 6.2, and yeah, yeah, and
I'm just not on the right version.
yeah. So 6.2 and up has alerting. 6.4 and up has SQL, and the security feature is one that we're most eagerly anticipating should be available very soon. Yeah. Are we done? Do I have a question? You have a question?
Yeah.
Well, he's first then.
You guys said that you can set up different timeframes for actually running the monitor versus reporting on it. We're just doing notifications and that kind of stuff. Does it aggregate the stuff that's happened in the meantime so that you can say, I've had a dozen of these and I didn't just get one? Or is it or do I just say, hey, something has happened, go figure it out?
Sure. So right now it is like that. So whatever the time frame you are looking for, and it's an aggregation base. So if you look,
say I'm doing a minute for the monitor and 10 minutes for the report for the.
yeah, that won't be really the case. But if your monitor runs every 1 minute, you will watch for last 1 minute of data because.
Yep.
Like if you look at the aggregation, doesn't make sense if you look every 10 minutes. So
Yeah.
imagine your monitor runs every 10 minutes and you are looking for every 10 minutes of data. That's where it's basically aggregate the data properly and you are looking for the time frame properly. So, but we ensure on the schedule time, we ensure like it runs on time always on the part of it.
Okay.
So we have an internal fight in my organization. So maybe you guys can help me win that fight. I'm combative. So would you say that the most common use case for Elasticsearch centers around sort of asynchronous monitoring, like logs and that sort of thing? Or can it be used, is it designed to be used more real time for caching purposes and real event reactions? Real time event reactions.
So I mean, we see customers use it for a lot of use cases. Obviously, full text search is still extremely popular use case. But explain to me how you're distinguish the difference between.
So one solution might say asynchronously consolidate the information from all the different logs.
Sure.
So you can search for transactions.
Right.
Another might actually literally report on the state of a workflow task
Mhm.
and let you know, hey, this task is open and Max is working on it, and just send it over to so on and so forth. So it's a real-time execution information
Sure.
that's utilized during runtime.
Yeah.
And those kind of fall into different buckets for us organizationally.
Oh, okay.
And I'm wondering, was there a guiding concept, or was it just however people want to use it?
I would say the latter. I will say a lot of customers that I talk to when it comes to like alerting workflows, they'll use this more as a supplement. Often Elasticsearch is a supplemental alerting system. They'll have a primary alerting system of record where they're actually doing, which is what everyone lives and dies by. But using tools like Elasticsearch, and this is true of Splunk and other tools like it, since it's so easy to actually create an alert, and sometimes again take time to get the code reviewed and pushed into the primary alerting system. If you had a bug last week, you can quickly write an alert here, and it can be like a supplemental thing that you can use to make your life easier. I haven't seen that many people that use logging systems as their system of record for like their primary alerting.
0 minutes left.
But that's a goal. I'd love it to be there, but that's typical I see. Wait, Ani, you got one.
Just want
Yeah.
to add something to this
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
If you have an alerting system which is requiring full text search as query criteria for alerts, this is one of the best ways to do those kind of alerts.
And you want the more use cases are basically want to be more and more real time because you have the data ingested on Elasticsearch cluster and you want to get to that immediately however something is going bad within that. Otherwise it may take some delay if you have different systems which will be able to.
So folks, we need to get ready for the next speakers. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks.
Have a-
Thank you.